St. Louis, America, whoever might be watching, we gotta talk. Lately, I've been overwhelmed and honestly pretty devastated by the amount of hate that's been spewing across my newsfeed. Until recently, I've really tried to stay out of political discussions on Facebook. People seem to have difficulty staying respectful, and I never really wanted to get into a Facebook war. But the past few days, I've seen this video keep popping up in my newsfeed, and it's an angry rant about the NFL players who have been kneeling down rather than standing during the national anthem, and I just can't stay silent any longer. So thanks a lot, Brandon Tatum. Look what you made me do. Now I have had enough. So I'm going to walk through his video as quickly but as thoroughly as I can, addressing all the claims he makes. I'm going to do my best to remain respectful, although I will definitely get passionate, but I want to avoid attacking him personally or just blowing off his views because I think there's just too much hate and not enough listening happening right now. So, and in fact, I actually agree with some of the things he said, and I'm not afraid or ashamed to admit it. All I'm asking you to do is when you feel your knee starting to twitch or starting to jerk in response to something I'm saying or something you read or hear elsewhere, pause the video, take a moment, and really think about what I'm saying and why you're feeling the way you are. And if you think about it and still disagree, that's okay. Feel free to send me a message challenging these ideas in a non-aggressive, totally impersonal way, or just agree to disagree. Make a post on your Facebook page inviting respectful discussion from people on all sides of an issue. We just have to start listening to each other and really talking about the issues, letting facts rather than politicians or political parties determine our feelings. So now that we've got the disclaimers out of the way, let's get to it. Oh, and P.S. if you're reading, if you're more of like a reading person rather than a hearing learner, I have written this out in note form so you can see there's a link with the video. So Brandon says, listen, what does the American flag have to do with your perceived oppression? What does the national anthem have to do with these issues that people are bringing up? The flag and the national anthem have nothing to do with what you're talking about. Okay. The American flag has everything to do with what we're talking about. Last time I checked, the American flag was about justice, freedom, equality. These players are kneeling to draw attention to the miscarriage of justice, the oppression, and the inequality that are still happening every day in the country we love. How are those not related? Next he says, you're talking about an anthem of hope and unity within this country that have made people become great, that have made the poor become rich and give people opportunities. You're talking about a flag that represents hard work, dedication, blood, sweat, and tears, and sacrifice. Yes, the flag absolutely represents all those things, but it also requires all those things. Hard work, dedication, blood, sweat, tears, and sacrifice to fulfill its promises, its potential. America is not a guarantee. If it were, we never would have fought the Civil War or waited until 1920 to grant women the right to vote. Our very own Declaration of Independence even says, the core of our country even says that it's up to us as citizens to take action when something's not right. It says, but when a long train of usurpations and abuses, like, for example, systemic racism, pursuing invariably the same object, etc., it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. We are the guardians of democracy. It is up to us to keep this country strong and to really make sure that it's giving all the things that it promises. And it's really up to us to do that. And then Brandon says, and the thing that makes me most upset is that you have these people who turn around and take a knee and want to attribute all the negativity to the flag and the anthem, but don't want to attribute the positive. Listen, if you feel that the American flag represents negativity and slavery and all this other stuff, then you have to give credit and credence to a flag that have given you the opportunity to go from cornfields and picking cotton to being the President of the United States. I totally agree. The flag doesn't represent only the negative, but doesn't that mean that it doesn't represent only the positive either? If the players were gesturing with their middle fingers or were screaming or chanting during the anthem, that would be disrespectful, definitely. Instead, they're quietly and respectfully kneeling, hands to hearts and heads bowed to show respect for the positive, and knees bent to mourn the negative. More than one person has described it beautifully as similar to how we fly the flag at half-mast on occasions of tragedy. It doesn't mean the flag is worth any less, simply that we're mourning the loss of something. Kneeling during the anthem is exactly that. Mourning the loss of lives and the miscarriage of justice that often happens in our country. It is a sign of respect and solemnity for all those who are being denied the American rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, while still honoring and acknowledging the country that is continually working towards a more perfect union. And so then Brandon says, these clowns are doing stuff off of trendiness. This is trendy. Again, gotta agree with him. That's probably true. Some of these players and owners are probably just doing this for publicity or attention. But you know, some people who are objecting are probably only doing so because, they're racist. That doesn't mean that everyone who objects is racist, nor that I should discount those who are objecting for, honest concerns. It means exactly what I said, that some people who kneel are doing it to be trendy, and some people who object to it are racist. The motivations of a few are not a blanket statement for everyone else. Then Brandon goes on, the issues they're talking about have nothing to do with the flag. You can address those issues on another venue. Please, I'm begging you, read Martin Luther King's letter from a Birmingham jail. There is some really beautiful stuff in there. He faced so much criticism from people on his methods of protest. Let me read, there's just one I want to read. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's greatest stumbling block in the stride towards freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate who, constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with your methods of direct action, who constantly advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient season. MLK faced the same criticism. Great cause, but this isn't the time or place. So I'll just answer that with another King quote. The time is always right to do right. And then let's see here. So then it says, if you really care about Black lives, you don't need to be taking a knee. You need to be out there doing something in the community. If you care about oppression, if you care about laws, then you need to be voting. You need to be putting yourself in position to assist in passing legislation. Do something about it. Yes! Can I get an amen? I really do hope that many of these players and owners and coaches move beyond just words and symbolism into the real nitty-gritty in the streets activism. And many of them, especially the ones who aren't doing this to be trendy, will. Or maybe already are. I just want to echo and underline his call for people to vote and run for political office. We all need to be doing more of that. That said, raising awareness of an issue is a separate but equally important way of addressing an issue. I'm a total tree hugger, as most of you know, and I can recycle and decide not to litter all I want. But if I don't tell anyone else what's happening to our environment, how can I ultimately expect wide-scale change? I can't just sit quiet and keep these truths to myself. I have to make others aware of the issues before I can ever expect things to change. So then Brandon says, what has happened since Colin Kaepernick taken a knee? Have unemployment changed in the Black community? Have police stopped shooting Black people? What has changed? Nothing. Nothing has changed. Nothing is going to change. Well, I can tell you one thing that's changed. I sure as heck wouldn't be making YouTube videos on a Friday night. But, seriously, people are talking about this issue now. People are looking up why is Colin gosh, I can't say his name, kneeling and reading statistics on racial inequality. They're seeing interviews with players and coaches and community experts who are saying, hey, racism is still a problem. Black students are 3 times more likely to be suspended than white students, even when their infractions are similar. Blacks with college degrees are twice as likely to be unemployed as all other graduates. These are things that I didn't know before the NFL players started kneeling. Did you? Okay, Brandon says, as an African-American man in this country, the flag means a lot to me. I honor the flag. I don't care if I don't like the president. I don't give a care about none of that stuff. I'm not going to disrespect the flag. I'm going to honor the people who fought so I could be free. That's it. If I don't do nothing else, I'm going to honor those people. Now we're really getting to the heart of the matter here. And it's truly a tough issue. So here's my take. It is absolutely true that so many people fought and gave their lives for our country, and I have the utmost respect for them and their service. That includes my grandpa and my uncle. But isn't it a contradiction to say you honor the people who fought so we could be free while arguing against these players' rights to, well, be free and, express their concerns freely? I don't for one moment believe our soldiers fought in order to force people to stand during the national anthem or to limit the freedom of speech and expression of others. As the Steelers player and Afghanistan veteran Alejandro Villanueva, hopefully I didn't butcher that, who received so much misconstrued attention for standing outside during the anthem on the September 24th game, he said, I don't think veterans at the end of the day take any offense. They actually signed up and fought so that somebody could take a knee and protest peacefully, whatever it is that their hearts desire. And I think that says it all. Okay, so Brandon says, presidents come and go. 4 years, 8 years, they're out. I'm not going to comment on the president. He doesn't have anything to do with the actual issue. Plus, the very mention of him is just too polarizing for people. What I do want to talk about is his call for these players to be fired. You may not agree with someone else's decision, but as my social studies teacher in 5th grade said, unless it impedes upon another's rights, you do not have the right to prevent them from making it. So let's assume kneeling is disrespectful or unpatriotic. I've outlined why I don't think it is, but we'll assume that it is disrespectful just for this argument. Patriotism and pride for your country are so much less powerful when it's dictated exactly how and when you're supposed to demonstrate it. Does it really feel good to have someone say the national anthem because they have a gun to their head? And, is threat of job loss any better? Personally, I'd rather know that people are doing what they're doing out of true love and pride for their country rather than obligation. As Jason Kander said, patriotism isn't about making everyone stand and salute the flag. Patriotism is about making this a country where everyone wants to. Okay, then Brandon says, listen, you play in a game. This is fairy tale world. You suit up, you lose, you go home. You cry, you play another game. In the real world, real heroes, when they lose games, they don't come back. When the game is over, there's no takebacks. When you lose, you die. That's real men. So true. Who can argue with that? But you know what else isn't a game? Inequality in the criminal justice system. That really is death, and very rarely life, for millions of Americans. They often don't come back either. So while the players and this particular controversy happen to happen before a game, what they're fighting for is absolutely not a game. And then Brandon says, we're almost done here, folks, hang in there. You ain't making money just because you're a good athlete. You're making money because people want to watch you. People are supporting you. And when you spit in their face, they will no longer support you. This kind of makes me think of Russell Crowe standing in the Coliseum going, "Are you not entertained?" No, but really, I think the point he makes here about watching football for entertainment is an important one, because I think it's actually so critical to why their decision to do this at games is so important. So many sports fans may not want to see protests, okay? And many of them probably wouldn't put themselves in situations to see them anywhere else. It's so important that these very people be awakened to the injustices and plight of those around them. If people only protested where people want to see protests, there probably wouldn't be any protests. Or at least, what would be the point? Because you're kind of preaching to the choir there. Plus, it has to make you consider how blessed you are to have a choice. Some people, simply because of the color of their skin, their religion, their sexuality, whatever, they face injustice and discrimination every single day, every single moment, without any choice, any chance to turn it off. It's kind of appropriate that you don't have any control over whether you see a protest at a sporting event, since they're protesting on behalf of those who don't have control over their mistreatment. And then there's one other thing I want to address that isn't in the video. It's actually, ironically, what I think is one of the strongest arguments against this form of protest. So one of the best arguments I've heard is that this type of protest is self-defeating and actually hurts the cause they're fighting for. And I think that's a fair point and should definitely be considered. I honestly don't know the answer to that, whether that's hurting or is ultimately hurting the cause or not. I hope it's not true. I do worry that the way Donald Trump has reframed this issue into a debate on patriotism definitely hurts the original intention. But as we talked about with Martin Luther King Jr. earlier, plenty of people disagreed with his methods during his time, but now he's hailed a hero. History is probably going to be the only judge of whether what they're doing hurts or helps the cause. And, you know, hopefully what they're doing will help it. But we probably won't know, honestly, until 20 to 50 years from now. All we can do is try and protest and initiate change in ways that we feel inspired to. And do our part to redirect the conversation to the issues behind the protest, rather than our disagreements about the form of protest itself. Okay, so that's it. We made it. Props to you if you stuck around for the whole video. To those of you who are just waking up, you missed out on some really good stuff. So give it another try. So thanks for watching and hopefully really listening. And thanks to our vets for fighting for our freedom to disagree. For all its problems, we truly live in a great country. God bless America. And good night.